I like to live a little, I like to drink a little, I like to smoke a little. I like to rush a little, misunderstood a little, we're all the same a little. Someone just wanna be bad, not got him bad, bad, bad.
Yep, my headphones levels were far too loud then. I've blown my ears off. So welcome everybody. It's Footy and Frothies, round 15 review show. David's here. We're all here. We're soldiering on. How are you, my friend?
So do I need to whisper for you, mate? So
No, it's all right.
blow
You
those
can if you
ears
want
out.
for all the ASMR fans out there. But I'll make do.
I thought we were doing like frothies and French cuts or something. I was all keyed up to talk about the cricket. I don't know,
okay.
This rugby league business, I don't want anything to do with it after this weekend.
Yeah, all right. We can do that too.
Jesus.
It was very nice seeing the Australians win.
Nah.
We'll save that for summer, eh?
That's it.
Sorry, don't freak out, everyone. Stay tuned. Of course, it's Footy and Frothies. We are back again to discuss round 15. Lots of news about, and we may as well get into it. How you travelling, mate?
Yeah, not
did
bad.
that.
It's,
whatever.
another bit of a rough weekend, to be honest. We both lost a mate that we played a bit of cricket with over the years. It was sad to see. A quite intelligent young man and a genuine lovely person. Never heard a bad word about him. So rest in peace, old Blue Eyes. But did a fair bit of painting around the house and a bit of housework. Copious amounts of liquid beverages to help me through, and we got to watch some footy, which was probably one of the rounds. I think there's a bit more average football this weekend than I've seen in the past, or for the entire season, realistically. But it comes with injury, suspension, just time in the legs for some of these footballers. I think they need a little bit of a break here and there. So, but.
Yeah. Just I'll just quickly mention as well my sincere condolences to friends and family of Mr. Blue. A genuinely fantastic human being, and he will be missed. But we have, was it I sort of said some teams are starting to hit the red line in the gas tank, and I reckon it's been exposed this weekend. I think potentially, once we get through Origin, may not bounce back, some of these teams.
And a few of those teams that probably were sort of spluttering along, not really hitting that gas, sort of picked it up a level this week as well. So.
And now will have their own issues to get through and back on board. But touch on news first. I'll get out of the way very quickly because we've probably got a little bit to talk about. Very quickly, Judiciary, Mitch Barnett, Christian Welsh both copped a game for each of their infringements, the high shot and the
hip drop.
Which did see Royce Hunt 6 weeks, syndesmosis. He's off for surgery, so that's not ideal for the Sharks.
Nope.
Injury-wise, Jerry Marshall-King, they're monitoring his shoulder after a potential reoccurrence there. Elise Katoa was a week with an eye injury, I believe.
Yep. I
mentioned Royce, and I guess the two big ones out of the Thursday night, Luke Brooks, 4 to 6 weeks. Api Coruscant, 2 months, broken jaw. Again, Tino, no charge out of the game. Tigers are in a world of trouble, but were you okay with the way the Tino thing was handled?
Well, I thought the Tino one wasn't as bad as the one that was the week before on Reid Marnie, to be honest. He did keep the arm a lot closer to the body and it was tucked in. Again, there was the action upon contact where he did extend his arms forward towards the bloke that he's carrying the ball, but that's been part of the game for a very long time. So very unlucky, I think, on Appy's point. The point of contact was obviously horrible, and if they didn't charge him the week before, they couldn't really charge him this week, I don't think, even though there was back-to-back occurrences of the same thing.
No, I'm obviously not the unbiased person talking about this, but I thought the Reid one was probably... I suppose I defended that in a way, so I can't be angry about it. But when it becomes a pattern, it becomes a concern. Poor old Reid, I think Copter Sevo needed the head as well on the weekend. So
he's had a couple of head
knocks. He's had a rough season, but not ideal for the Tigers. I have grave concerns for them. The other big couple.
I dare say the NRL will probably go out of their way to make it known to Tino that
I would like to think if they're wrote to Swally, they should be writing him saying, "Look, mate, stop elbowing blokes."
Just more the extension than anything. Like, sure, keep your arms in, tuck them into your body, but don't be pushing out when you hit blokes. But Yeah, it's I think it was more unfortunate than anything, that one.
Luke Brooks has turned down the Tigers' offer to go to market. Apparently, according to Sydney Morning Herald, no one's interested in him in Australia, but we'll see what transpires. But also, it could also, as yet he's not going anywhere. He's just told him he's turned down his first offer.
Yeah.
We'll see what that means. You know, a turnaround offer him $750 next week, and he stays, and we're all.
I think if they get closer to 7, he possibly will stay. But it's a bit of a kick in the teeth for the Tigers, realistically, considering how long that they've kept him there and gone through. They have used him a little bit as a fall guy, or not so much the club, but the media's used him as a fall guy for the Tigers for quite a while, which has probably gotten his back up a little bit, I would imagine. But I would expect if they can get somewhere near the 700, he really has to stay, in my opinion. For the fact that he's been given $1 million for the last three years or close enough to, I think he really needs to sort of repay that faith a little bit. But
short of uprooting to England or something, where apparently a few clubs have offered him money in that realm, in the $1 million realm. So more power to him. Look, it was a funny thing when it came out because I didn't quite know how to feel after all these years of
wanting him gone.
Somewhere between wanting him gone and well, especially the last couple of years. But his form this year's been good. Obviously, being in a shop window probably inspires a little bit.
Doesn't hurt.
But if he was meant to maintain that for another year and a half, 2 years till blokes came good, until the youngsters stepped up, I'd be happy with it. So Tigers are going to try and go to market with the best part of $2 million to find some halves. They've got 0 for next year right now, apart from Wakeham. So the discussion's already been. Stafford Toe is going to spend the off season as a 5'8", and
he's there this week.
Train him up, and he's been named there this week. So
he's slotted in there and played about 20 minutes, I think, on the weekend after Brooks did go off, and he had a couple of nice touches. He got a bit confused and a bit lost a couple of times as well, but obviously first crack at it in the NRL. I thought there was a few positive signs there for him. So
definitely, we'll get into that as well. But in terms of I've said it for years. I think there was the fear that Brooks would potentially go somewhere else and look like a superstar, and I think now it's happening. More power to him. I hope he does. But they should have. As always, I'm more upset with the Tigers board not letting it happen in 2018, and when chances arose to sign other players.
Yeah, well, there's been constant talks for 2 or 3 years now about a Newcastle swap, or
they could
not even just a swap.
Even
just
this year, they could have kept
kept
Hastings and let Brooks go, and we would have been in the same spot. Obviously, there's deeper issues with Hastings, Bateman, Sheens apparently, but it would have been very interesting to see Hastings behind that Tigers forward pack in some of those games, particularly early on with Dewey. But
agree with you, mate.
More power to him. See where he ends up.
Yeah.
I don't. We'd have to have OV on, but I haven't heard from him and discuss it as a Tigers fan. But that'll come down the road. Shane Flanagan's been ratified by the St George board as their preferred coach. He met with Ben Hunt during the week. Apparently, as a pre. What would you call it? I don't call it an ambush, but it took the measures to go and meet with Ben Hunt and placate him before the board info. But apparently, they've endorsed him. Still, I believe, some stuff to play out with Manly.
It hasn't been finalised yet.
Still, Manly and the NRL have to both approve it, but looks like that's happening. We're going to see what he brings to the table. He's starting from the bottom of the barrel. Yeah, any thoughts on that?
Probably what they need, someone who can set up a structure, and he seemed quite good at the Sharks at being able to bring players through the grades and buy talent from outside of the squad to bring in to complement his squad. So it'll be interesting how he puts those pieces together that he has. I wouldn't be surprised if you see 5 or 6 blokes disappear out of that squad pretty quickly. But I think he'll do a decent enough job. But they're not going to turn around and be top 6 material next year. But
no.
I would expect some gradual increases in the next 2 years.
Well, I'd assume he'd be given a 3-4 year window realistically. They'll as you said, turn over plenty of talent. At least it gives them someone who, from all reports, the fucking PR campaign, News Corp and Fox and 2GB have run for the bloke for 2 years. Has eventually worked. They've made a job. So I do think he's capable. Obviously, he's a Premier coach, but I think he comes across very intelligently on all his media commitments. He probably brings a lot to the table. If he's behind some of the stuff at Manly, well, you've seen the results ish there.
Yeah.
So he probably the right guy. From all reports, he will bring players to the club. So I guess if you're a Dragons fan, it's something. Other news is that the State of Origin teams have come out since we prognosticated on them, and let me bring them up.
So we'll have a real proper look at them next week. But
We'll do a proper preview, yes, next week as normal. But essentially, Nanai and Mo Fodawaker, as we've asked, have come into the 17. Mo richly deserved for anyone listening to this show. AJ Brimson is the 18th man. Corey Osborne, 19th man. And the rest is what you expect. Xavier Coates in for Selwyn Cobbo. So they look pretty good to me, Queensland. Potentially, you'd argue a stronger team than what they brought to game one.
Generally, everything that we expected probably would happen there for the replacements for the injuries. Cobbo for Coates was a bit of a no-brainer in his last 3 or 4 weeks. The bloke couldn't score a try for 12 weeks, but all of a sudden he's started jumping out of the ground and jumping over top of people, scoring tries and setting up tries again. So it's sort of a pretty intelligent pick there. I think I don't think they've done anything wrong at all. Nanai is a bit iffy. You could have gone a couple of different ways if you really wanted to, but Nanai probably deserves to be repaid for what he did for him last year. So
100%. And they're going to have Cotter, who if they can play anywhere. Fodawaker's going to get through that mountain of work if they need to and doesn't miss tackles, and Flegler off the bench as well. All looks good to me. For New South Wales, Mitch Moses is the new 7. Luai keeps his spot, which is not a combination. It's a weird combination to say out loud, Luai and Moses in the halves, but we're going to see what they bring to the table.
Probably the closest to what he has at club for Moses, to be honest. Luai probably plays closer to Dylan Brown than any other 5'8" in the comp.
Yeah, that's true. Latrell named and assumed to be fit. They're going to be softly with all the South players. Damien Cook comes back in for Appy. Hudson Young keeps his spot. Stefano gets the bench prop spot behind Payne and Junior Barlow. Murray's still there. Liam Martin's still there, who has to get cleared. It's the 11th day of his HIA. Yep. And Reece Robson, they've gone back to 2 hookers. Critter and Kolomatangi extras there. Look, any thoughts on that?
The one that really stands out for me is the last one that you mentioned there. I'll just touch on the other couple first.
And obviously, no Nico. I haven't been on the bench.
Excuse me.
Burton was there as 18th man. He's gone. And TPJ was gone.
Yeah, well, TPJ defensive efforts pretty much ruled him out over the weekend. They targeted him and turned him inside out a couple of times, which pretty much put paid to any of his chances. By the looks of it, it was always going to be either Nico or Moses, the way they were looking at and who they wanted to play with Luai, because they weren't going to drop Luai. Reynolds was more of a back sort of option in case something happened with Luai during the week. Having Walker ruled out during the week obviously didn't help. Reynolds' chances there. Nico played one of the worst games he's played since he's been in first grade. Not that he was still one of the better Sharks on the field, which says a lot about their performance. But when you look at it, and Moses come out and did everything that he needed to do, I think it's more the fact that we haven't had a back foot kicking option for New South Wales for the last probably 3 or 4 years. And Queensland have done it to us time and time again. You would have heard me on this show probably the last 3 series time and time again. Whenever Queensland get in trouble, DCE just reefs the ball down to the other end of the field and they back their defence to go up and staunch the opposition and keep them down their end. And Freddie's looking for a like for like there, I think. Moses was brilliant. It was against the Bulldogs, but his running game was back to the fore and he was fantastic on the weekend. So that's where I think they went that way. The one that really does confuse me is Robson coming down to play the 2 hooker role. They've been dead against it for a year and a half, 2 years. If they were ever going to play 2 hookers, it was in the game 1 with Appy, who was sort of questionable about playing 80 minutes. You've got Cook now, who's played 80 minutes for pretty much the entirety of his career.
Yeah.
And you're bringing in a backup hooker that really doesn't make a lot of sense for mine, to be honest. Well, I know he's fantastic in defence, and that does give Cook a bit of a rest, but Cook's been playing 80 minutes for a decade.
Yes.
So if you were ever going to play two hookers,
Yeah.
hookers, it should have been game one.
It's slightly bashing to me as well because, well, first of all, the Nico thing, like, you've just exposed that it's a complete token to give him a Blues jersey to hang on his wall, and you don't actually.
No, well, he realised he fucked up. He's either playing 80 minutes or he's not in the side.
Yeah,
which
is fair
obviously
enough,
what
but
they
like,
realised.
surely, like, you and I knew that before the game
We said
kicked
that
off,
before the game
as did
kicked
the rest
off.
of the media.
Yeah.
I would have thought someone.
I don't think Burton have done anything to lose his spot, to be honest. I think he probably would have been the better 14.
Well, in the terms that he can play centre, has played centre, gives you I don't want to say a better kicking
play
game,
6,
but gives
7,
you an alternative
another
kicking
option.
game.
Yeah.
And
An
a
option
goal
that
kicker.
nobody else has, realistically,
And
with those bombs.
Probably, it's an interesting one, probably is quicker over 100 metres.
Could play back row
Nico.
and lock if he had to. He's a big boy.
Yeah.
His defence isn't horrible.
Yeah.
And he can run the ball pretty strong. So
Yes, if exposed to if you want two hookers, I would have thought, to me, Cam McGuinness made more sense because I also don't think
he's coming back
Reece-
off a month
I
out.
understand it. But Reece Robson hasn't really been setting the ball on fire either. I wouldn't necessarily say, but it's a shallow pool now. We went from where we were to here we are. Just to have him there to play 20 minutes sort of is a bit baffling to me because
Like Burton wouldn't do anything wrong at the hooker either.
No.
I just don't understand. Like the versatility you would get out of Burton compared to putting Robson in there.
I agree. Yeah,
And you've got
which is why I sort of said like
every option to play Cook for 80 minutes. Like he doesn't generally gas out at all. The
No.
bloke makes 50, 60 tackles and still running the ball at the end of the game. It just confuses the hell out of me.
Well, that was in a perfect world. I would have thought of a McGuinness who can also play back row, can play lock, and make any tackles you want. It made more sense. But we'll see what he brings to the table. Congratulations to Stefano.
Absolutely. Well deserved. It's been a good year.
He's been, shows you that, Clemmer's had 100 yards on him at club level.
The only
but it
problem
shows
is
you
he
that
is a
he's
bit hot and
stamped.
cold. When he's really good, he's as good as any prop
But
running around.
as a third prop, fantastic. Like, he's going to play 25 minutes, run in, bash up some people. I suppose, RCG. Clemmer
As I said, at his best,
unlucky.
he's as good as most props in the game, but he does sort of float in and out of games. So
I do hope they do start Martin for Young. I think that's important. Start Paulo, start Haas, start Frizzell.
I'd even start him over Frizzell, to be honest.
Well, either way
Frizzell's
you go,
probably
yeah.
still going to get 50 or 60 minutes
Yeah.
in the game.
But,
And-
mate, they don't want to get hit by Liam Martin.
no, absolutely. Martin's right side is generally where he starts and plays. Hudson is probably a bit more of an attacking threat than Frizzell, whereas Frizzell's can do that work when the guys do start to get a bit tired. So, but
Yep. We will, we're going to do a full preview of that next week with GT, I believe. So potentially Sunday night, as I just check this and talk amongst yourselves, Spanish, just see what we've got here. But otherwise, let's get any other news, Barney? You want to
not
touch on?
that I can think of. No.
Nothing from Ovi, so we'll move on. The round kicked off with the Titans 28, the Tigers 12, big injuries out of the game. But we saw the worst of the West Tigers turn back up, and that was largely the story of most of this game. But the Titans pretty good for the first
I don't think it was
half
quite,
hour.
I don't think it was quite their worst. It definitely wasn't their worst.
Well, there were some players that you could throw up as their worst.
Oh, there was two of them out there. Yeah, absolutely.
But fuck, I can have some egg put on my face after last week. I sit here and stamp and put out on TikTok, Tigers are the best forward back in the comp. And they didn't
Tino
quite
took
live
them
up to
apart
that.
pretty much single-handedly. Or Mo helped, but
I'll tell you where they fucked up, but do the stats because that's what
we
you
had
normally
5 tries to 2, 4 out of 5 conversions played 2 out of 2 for the Tigers. 83% completion played 70%, 138 plus running meters for the Titans. 4 line breaks to 3, 37 tackle busts to 44, 6 offloads to 20 for the Tigers. 4 forced dropouts for 1 to 1, 342 tackles played 344. 7 errors to 14 for the Tigers, 4 penalties conceded to 3. 4 ruck infringements against the Titans, 1 inside the 10 against the Tigers. Jerome Buller with 95 Supercoach points, AJ Brimson with 94, and Tino with 93.
Well, what the Tigers did was move, and I'd called for it, and now I've seen it. Bateman to lock brought Sean Bloor in, and obviously we had the withdrawal of who wasn't there? I've just had a mind blank. Someone obvious. Anyway, they moved Bateman to lock, brought Sean Bloor in, and it just massively exposed Talau,
That edge.
Law, Brooks, and it was carnage. Titans identified that, and they played it very cleverly. Short kicks for the first half, turned them around time and time again, and just massively exposed it, weight of possession, and put points on it. And as a result, I thought the Tigers fullback looked much worse for wear. Bateman got through a massive amount of defensive work and still was good,
absolutely.
but I would have loved to have seen him actually attack that edge that they had cracks at that Talau, couldn't catch the ball with. But from the start, what did you make of this game and the Titans' effort?
Well, the first 20 minutes was polar opposites of each other, to be honest. The first 10 was all the Titans, just straight through the middle, causing all sorts of problems for the Tigers. Pretty much camped down in the Tigers for 30 metres for that first 10 minutes. And the Tigers just kept giving away errors and penalties and set restarts and absolutely killed their start to the match. And then the next 10, as I said, was almost the complete opposite, with the Titans giving away penalties and errors, missing tackles, and the Tigers got back in front, which to me, after that first 10 minutes, I didn't think the Tigers were any chance. I think they were just going to get steamrolled for the entirety of this match. But then they did put that fight in for the next 10 or 15 minutes. But it just switched back to field position and possession, realistically. Tigers continued to make errors. The Titans cleaned their act up a little bit, and then they just got continually camped in the Tigers' half of the football, and it was all attack from the Titans and all defence from the Tigers, just continually, set after set.
Yeah, the shit the Tigers threw out, like failing to find, it's rookie stuff. Couldn't find and would have. I think it was 6-4 at the time.
Yep.
Failed to find touch.
Yep.
Get the ball back, drop it, second tackle, spread the ball wide, strip it on the outside, drop it cold. Just last year these two teams put in the worst game of the year last year, and for the first half I thought they're going to try and do their best to repeat it, but the Titans were quite crisp at times. AJ Brimson came back and looked like he hadn't missed a beat. He was fantastic.
20 minutes in that second half, he got absolutely schooled in that first 20 minutes of the second half of this game. They went out of their way to target Tommy Talau, who just
had
decided
a bad first half.
He was going to sprint off the line every time the ball came anywhere near him, which fucking directly led to 2 tries. One where they bounced off him, went back inside, and the other one they just gapped him, stopped and held him up and threw the pass behind him for the bloke to score on his outside. I don't know what the Tigers have been doing quite well at holding their line and sliding and defending out wide. Whereas Tommy just was on a seek and destroy mission, and he missed every time he come charging out of the line, which just left massive holes. Then they went.
Oh, even the one he did hit led directly to a try because he jumped up,
bounced
grabbed
out,
it through, and off
went back through the middle. And they targeted both your halves as well. They turned Wakeham and Brooks over time and time again, and just peppered them. And they're small guys. Like when you got the likes of Tino and Mo just rolling at them set after set, it just takes a toll after a while. And then you've got other blokes trying to cover your halves, and it just leaves holes all through the defensive line, which was exposed quite well by the Titans. I thought they were really good at picking their moments, especially in that 20 minutes of the second half. The highlight of the game was probably Jerome Buller's try.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing doing, just popping around in the middle of the field, and he palms off Tino and just left defenders in his wake, left, right, and centre on the way to scoring a try. I reckon he left 5 of them on the ground when he went and scored over in the corner.
He's one of these blokes that...
He must be strong. He must be strong because he's so hard to tackle.
Well, I think he's only 18, 19.
He made a couple of 2 try-saving cover tackles as well. Like he was by far the Tiger. Well, not by far, but
he was up.
Him and Bateman were fucking absolute standouts for the Tigers.
But when the way he moves across the field, he doesn't look like he's going quick, and then he'll just beat people.
Yeah,
those
first couple of steps.
Like he's the most exciting player the Tigers have produced since James Tedesco. Right.
Absolutely.
As
you mentioned, AJ was brilliant. He killed it. He set up him and Campbell had a pretty good game too. They were actually really sniffing around and looking for holes, and continually getting the Tigers rolling in behind the Tigers' defence and getting them on the back foot.
They just played the most simpler plans that you scream at teams for not doing.
Yeah, run at holes with straight line runners.
And on the fifth, just grub it in. We'll get the ball back and do it again. And do it again. And we'll do it again. And all of a sudden, it's 24-0. Or whatever, 24-6.
As soon as you get the defence on the back foot, it's real hard to get back on the front foot these days.
We know, as I said, having Spruik is the best forward pack in the comp. Fodawaker and Tino were absolutely nice. Tino was incredible in this game. I would have loved to see him and Johnny go at it because Johnny probably would have three shivs hidden on him and would have looked up. I would have backed Johnny. Don't worry. But
Mo was dead set on a seek and destroy mission as well. He cleaned up Brooks 3 or 4 times in this game. Like absolutely, I'm like, he's not going to get up. He's not going to get up.
It reminded me of last year when I called Josh Curran the Wolverine. Yeah. That was Mo just would appear like he was like Godzilla coming out of the sea.
It was all around the ribs. It wasn't the high grab shit. It was it was between the armpits and the hips and just driving through the tackle and leveling blokes.
Yeah.
Tino flattened 1 or 2 of them as well on his way through with ball in hand and without the ball. They were those two were absolutely crucial to what the Titans did.
They were fantastic. I think. Look, I will still say the Titans. That Shoop edge was just hanging by a string.
It was.
If Talau catches a couple of them, if Wakeham doesn't throw an intercept, Wakeham was marginally ahead of
me.
His decision
Those two
was
were
awful.
horrible.
Like spoiler, they're getting pot plants this week because dead set. Without him, it's probably close to 16 all. And
the Wakeham threw an intercept pass. He would have thrown 4 or 5 that hit the ground. A couple that went behind people. One, I'm pretty sure, just didn't touch anyone and went over the sideline.
Yeah.
Tommy Talau could not catch the fucking thing for about 20 minutes.
Well, there was at least 2 occasions where they were stripped, and if he catches it, we'd probably go close to scoring.
There was 3 or 4.
And he dropped it completely.
3 or 4 times in a row that he touched the ball, he just dropped a goal.
Yeah.
Just dropped it straight in front of him.
Yeah.
They both only got credited for about 3 errors, but if you look at the way they defended and all the rest of the shit,
they were critical. They were critical. The Wakeham intercept led to. They ran and scored.
Yeah.
Tigers are on top. There's moments like that cost them.
Yep.
The only other Tigers player I want to really I can't overstate just what a mountain of defensive work Bateman did, but I thought Jake Simpkins coming on, having to play an hour there, was very good. He'll probably look the most likely of our attacking options for a long time, apart from Buller.
I thought Blore and Stefano did a job. They weren't tremendous by any means, but they did their job. Clemmer, Papali, and Simpkins, they were quite good. I thought they were, probably better than good. And you could throw Nofa in there too. He had a couple of really nice touches.
He tried hard as well. I agree. Yeah.
But yeah, it was Bateman and Buller. They were by far the best of the Tigers, and only one of them's getting points, unfortunately, because you looked on the other side of the field. You had Shoop and Mo were okay. Cleese Haas, I thought, was quite good coming off the bench. Unlimited minutes, had some real good impact there. The halves were fantastic. Both of them had a really good game in this one, I thought. Campbell and old mate, what's his name? Sorry, the 7. Tanner Boyd. I thought was really good, especially his kicking game. Led to a lot of. They just had so many more different points of attack than what the Tigers had, which has been a constant theme. Sammy was very good also, but Tino and AJ Brimson fucking were the attacking threats in this game. We've already mentioned Mo, but unfortunately I've got him just missing out on the points because I had to get Buller in there. But I thought AJ and Tino were the big reason why so many points came from this Titans team.
Just lastly, because we'll move on. First of all, the sad thing is that I had such high hopes for the Tigers for a month, and they won't win another game now without Brooks and Appy. Unfortunately, they're
probably not.
Yeah. If they do, we'll celebrate like it's a grand final. Titans, like I said, still enough dramas in their game. I don't see them going much more than this. This was a bottom 4 game, and I treat it that way, and I'm going to move on from it.
Yeah.
But Tino is in the conversation for the best prop in the game, and he's getting 3 points for me. Sam Verrills is one I want to mention. He had a great game. He was fantastic. Clean service.
I did write him down.
Defense, but he was the only one that just comes to mind we haven't spoken about. Is his first game back or second game back?
Pretty sure it was his second game back.
But he made such a
difference.
His
service was brilliant. Rolling blokes onto the ball. Yeah. The pass he threw was sublime to put Tino over to score. pinpoint precision. His defence is generally always pretty good, and yeah, he did make a big difference for the Titans coming back this week.
Yes.
I actually had AJ for 3, but I'm happy to swap him with Tino. So I'll have Tino with a 3. Buller had got 2 for mine. I thought he was close to the best player on the field, and the fact that he was in the losing side is probably the only reason he didn't get 3. And then I had, but we'll give AJ the 1 and Tino the 3.
That's harsh.
No,
give it to Tino 3.
I'll give Buller the 1.
Probably harsh as well.
Tino, AJ, Buller.
And honorary mentions, I think, well, Mo Fodawaker. And,
absolutely.
And Jake Simpkin.
And Verrills.
And Bateman.
Bateman was fantastic.
Very good performance here. And for all the concern about Bateman coming here, he is fantastic. Like, you can see
Took him 3 weeks to get going, but
that was the point. They knew that. That's why he didn't play in the first game. But he's outstanding. Just an outstanding footballer. All right, well, I got one of these on Friday night right, and I got one very wrong. But Friday night kicked off.
I was 2 from 2, and I was flying, and I ended up with 3 for the round.
You tipped the Titans.
I didn't get 4, did I? Yeah.
You tipped the Tigers?
Oh no, I went the Tigers. Sorry, did I? I think I changed it.
You tipped the Tigers. No, you did.
No, I did tip the Tigers. Sorry.
Warriors 36, Raiders 14. This Warriors team is a proper football team.
Yeah,
Andrew Webster is a proper football coach and should be in discussion for Coach of the Year when we get there.
Absolutely.
But what do the stats say first?
2 tries to 6, 2 out of 2 conversions, played 6 out of 6. 70% completion, played 75%. 260 plus running meters for the Warriors. 2 line breaks to 7. 30 tackle busts to 25. 11 offloads to 8. 2 forced dropouts forced from the Raiders. 349 tackles played, 311. 13 errors to 12. 5 penalties conceded from both teams. 1 ruck infringement to 2. 1 inside the 10 to 2. 2 sin bins for the Warriors. Sean Johnson with 119 Supercoach points. Papali'i with 90 and Chance Nickel-Clockstad with 84.
Good player, Chance. So,
been real good this year.
Ricky Stewart, old mate Ricky, knows better than all of us. We're all Muppets.
Yeah, all the Muppets.
Could have played Jared Croker last week, had a famous win against the Tigers. Admittedly, if he played, maybe he would have won. But and he was actually pretty good here, Croker. But
missed a couple. But
they kept him for here. They had all the ball for a half and could only manage 12 points, and then got completely owned second half. They could have done the same thing, played him last week, and had the same presentation post-game, which is what they did. Done the same home ground presentation, would have been the same as emotional, and he would have always remembered winning here. Unfortunately, he knew better than us, and thanks, Ricky. Instead, they copped this. But as I said, the Warriors are very good. Any other team, and Raiders were good, but they had, 70% of possession that first half.
Yeah.
Any other team, I think, not any other team, but a good chunk of this comp, they would have led 26-30-0 at half time. And Warriors' defence was quite stoic to not concede that because there's so much ball, so much repeat set. And when they couldn't convert that, the second half was completely
Well, the
different
attacking
story.
options now from the Raiders seems like it's Fogarty or it's a barge over try.
Yes.
Realistically, it's Fogarty's boot or a nice cutout pass from Whiten or Fogarty, and then other than that, it's Papali'i or Horsburgh or someone barging over to score next to the post.
And there's times
Which is
when you watch these
unfortunate.
games with all the ball, and it just starts to feel that way, and just starts to feel they know that, and they're happy to. And he nearly did pull off the deflection try again, but I think they were quite I wouldn't say cozy, but because they were out on their feet, but they had their attack worked out.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
that first half.
It was probably a bit more back and forth than you think, even with only having 35% possession from the Warriors, because they did cause a few problems for the Raiders in the first half without sort of capitalising too much on them. They split them a couple of times and made some good meters early in the game. But, the Raiders really, in their field position, should have taken a larger toll on the scoreboard than what they did. The Dallin Watene-Zelezniak try was a thing of beauty. The cross kick that really should have screamed over his head and ended up in probably the first row.
Yeah.
He's managed to jump 6 foot in the air and pluck it out, pluck it out of the sky.
Like Blake Ferguson at his best. There's not many blokes who can do that.
Yep.
Greg Inglis, that's
And then contort his body on the way down to just squeeze it in inside the sideline. There was fantastic. the big issue with the first 40 minutes of the game, which probably did cruel the Raiders a little bit, was there was 14 errors in there.
That's
and
true as
a
well.
lot of them were from the Raiders early on in the game. So while there was some really good physical football played, there was a lot of drop ball and you know, balls hitting the ground and all the rest of that kind of stuff as well. And you throw a few penalties in there and a sin bin for good measure. It just really, descended into a bit of chaos there at the back end of that first half. But normally, from the last what would you say? Probably the last decade, the Warriors would come out and just absolutely throw that game away and end up.
Yeah.
The scoreline would be the other way around. They'd
Yeah.
end up getting beaten by 20 to 30 points. But not this team, as you said. They're a top class footy team, and the Raiders gassed out. I thought. The Raiders looked like they had very little energy, especially in the last 20 minutes of this game.
It's now 3 weeks in a row coming off the Tigers games. The forwards have gassed out. We saw it with Souths. We saw it with Souths again, actually. And we saw it with the Raiders and the other game before that, who have just had a mental blank. But they've come out and then just gassed out in the last 20. So we'll take full credit for that as well.
But the first 20 minutes from the Warriors in this second half had the Raiders completely shell-shocked. Like the up-tempo, fast play of the balls, just continually running at the defence, causing, dragging in defenders, and some beautiful ball playing from Sean Johnson and Tohu Harris led directly to tries.
Yeah.
Fast, flat balls, just hitting blokes on the chest to put Tom Ale away. And I think Sean Johnson put one of the centres, or not have even been challenged, but it was a fantastic pass to put someone away over on the edge there. Again, Sean Johnson combined his running game as well as his passing game in this one. He was targeting the outside shoulders of defenders and running at them, drawing defence, and then throwing beautiful short balls and cutout balls to just completely confuse the defence.
There is no market because you can't bet in Delhi, can you?
No, you can't.
But I would suggest I don't know if he's a sneaky, but he's on for a Dally M this year. He's been their best player every time they've won. He's an Origin proof. He's hopefully stays fit.
He got knocked out too, and I thought he wasn't coming back.
I thought that was for sure.
That head clash.
How happy was he when he came back on, and then he pinched the intercept.
And then he pinched the intercept with a couple of minutes to
tremendous.
go.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, deserved every bit of that because he worked his ass off from the moment he was out there, and every minute that he was out there, and it was just a fitting finish. I thought Tomoko again was probably the best of the back five for the Raiders. Wasn't really anyone else that stood out in that back five.
Seb Chris is he didn't cover himself in glory.
No,
he tries hard, but maybe they've got to get back to Savage.
Maybe. I'm not sure what's gone on there. He seems pretty out of favour at the moment. So I don't think he's injured, is he? But Tapane and Young were good. Horsburgh and Papali'i were the Raiders' best, easily. They were fantastic again. Horsburgh was enormous again.
Yes.
And just forced his way onto the 19th position for the Queenslanders, and most deserved of that. Harris, Fanua Blake, and Charles Nickel-Clockstad were very good. Not just good, they were well above good.
Sorry, just with Tohu, poor old Tohu. Every conversation he had with the referee, and he wasn't wrong. They got fucked on a couple of things from both the bunker and it was Atkins. It was Atkins, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
And he went up there very politely and asked, why are we getting fucked, sir? And he said, because I said so. But he tried 3 or 4 times, and I just said, how can you not like Tor? He's just he's so great. Anyway.
Tom Ale come in and had an impact off the bench. The young fella on debut, Leah Tua, I thought he had quite a good game out in the centres there. Metcalf was fantastic. His running game was deadly at times. He broke him open 3 or 4 times. One of them was an individual effort, and the other ones were being put into space. But he's got nice bit of pace there to capitalise on that. Egan was awesome out of dummy half. I thought he was really good for this side.
Yes.
Again, provided a whole heap of options for them, getting them around the field.
When we're talking, and I know he's been injured lately, but when you're talking about him versus Robson, he feels like an Origin player.
More of an attacking player, absolutely.
Yeah, and gets his,
and his defence isn't bad at all.
No, he's more of that mongrel sort of, you'll get in and grow. Typical sort of classical Origin hooker, I guess. But
and I've been blowing smoke up Sean Johnson's ass for about a month now, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. He was fucking brilliant in this game. He was by far and away the best player on the field, even though Horsburgh and Papali'i were fucking awesome as well. He was just, everything he touched turned to gold in this game.
I think you've covered this pretty well. The bloke I want to wrap, who you haven't touched yet, and he's a fantastic buy. I said fantastic a lot tonight. Sorry, Nia Corey. He was great in this game. He just
Probably just the
hit some-
suspension.
what happened
sin
didn't
bin.
help, but
And now
he ran
follow-
89 metres, but it felt like every run counted.
Yeah. He was running off the back
great in
fence.
defence. I thought him and Ford are now combining on both sides there, and they are just an impressive forward pack. And throughout the Tigers last week, and you threw up Brisbane and the Warriors, and I wouldn't argue with this Warriors pack because, and now they're getting Barnett back. Curran's on the bench. There's Tom Arley's chipping in and looking every bit, like Bunty. They are a formidable team, formidable forward pack. I hope they go deep. I think it'd be great. If a convincing case could be made to me, they can finish top 4 and go deep as well.
When you saw a couple of the performances out of the teams that are up there,
yeah, they've got the halfback tick. They've got a forward pack's going to match up. Some of their weaknesses with the edge defence, but they've by and large covered that up this year. It's improved massively. So I think the Raiders' streaks ended, but it was ended by a team that I'm giving a genuine chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Sean Johnson 3 points, Wade Egan 2, and then I had 1 for either Horsburgh or Papali'i in beaten side. It was probably Horsburgh, I think. I think Papali'i was, got the try, which probably made his stats look a little bit better, but Horsburgh's stats were enormous.
What about Chance?
Yeah, it was fantastic. But
yes, he was good. Give it to Horsburgh. I think Chance unlucky. I think Tohu's Tohu. We grade on a curve sometimes, as you know, and Nia Corey I thought was good. So let's move on to this. How I looked at this game the way I did, I'm not sure, but I sat here last week and said that the fuel tank's empty for the Dolphins, and then I turned around on the preview show and tipped the Dolphins, and the fuel tank's not empty. The wheels have fallen off. The fucking exhaust is 400 metres down the road, and they're trying to salvage the window fucking openers for scrap at the moment, the way they're going. But the Dolphins were not good here. 58-18 on Friday night. The Eagles prevailed.
10 tries to 3, 9 out of 10 conversions, a 3 out of 3 for the Dolphins. 80% completion played, 83%, 525 plus running metres and 171 plus post-contact metres for Manly. 8 line breaks to 2, 33 tackle busts to 19, 5 offloads to 2. What have we got here? 4 forced dropouts from both teams, 265 tackles played, 352. 7 errors for Manly, 5 for the Dolphins, 1 penalty conceded to 8. 2 ruck infringements to 1. Garrick with 169 Supercoach points. Tommy with 126. DCE with 113. Lachlan Croker with 109. And then you got to Cody Nicarima on 82.
He's flying, Lachlan Croker even. He's had a good month. A real good 6 weeks, actually. Well, he just came back. He was injured, wasn't he, earlier in the year?
He was injured for a little bit.
He's come back. These are the hardest games to analyse for us because, when you're taking a piss and when it is
But
what
Manly
it is,
went out of their way not to play anywhere near the strengths of the Dolphins. So
Spread
you
the ball
mentioned
early,
that the
kick
wheels
early.
have fallen off and all the rest of it. But they went out of their way to avoid this forward pack. Like they took it in there when they had to, but it was a definite plan to kick early, turn them around, spread the ball early, get these big, fast outside backs that they have, and unleash them on some of these outside backs that we had question marks about with their defence at the start of the year. They've been very good up until this point, but they got unlocked time and time again in this one. They just got absolutely torn to shreds on the edges of the field. And they're used to being able to sort of settle, get into the game, give themselves a bit of time, get warm, and then they can defend probably a little bit better once they've been out on the field for a little bit longer. But Manly just made sure that they were coming in cold and they were getting run at consistently. Tommy and Garrick just lining up to run at blokes and with support around them on both sides of the field. It was an absolute carve-up, as you mentioned.
It's how they should treat Garrick if he's going to play in the centres. Treat him as a second fullback and just have him just chime in, go and look for it. He chimed in on both sides of the field. He's fast, he breaks tackles, he knows what he's doing, and
once they got, because they were shifting side to side, and they were getting really quick play the balls off the back of it as well. So you've now got a retreating defensive line from the Dolphins, and as soon as you start they were sliding and going backwards. Generally, if you're sliding, you're up and you're sliding. If you start going backwards and trying to slide as well, it just opens up so many different holes.
Who was I talking about
blokes
doing
with
that in the
strength and
preview show?
footwork was just
Melbourne. I was wondering about that. Anyway, yeah.
blokes with strength, footwork, and pace, and they just continually got burnt on the outside edges of the field. Hammer still found a fucking way to score a double. I don't know how the bloke does it, but he just scores tries. he just pops up and just scores tries whenever the hell he seems to feel like it. But
we may as well get Dolphins out of the way because they're by and large deplorable. But Nicarima was again their best.
Absolutely, by far.
He's having nearly a career.
Looked like their only attacking option.
Yeah,
really
he's fantastic. Obviously, Zarko, he's always a safe option. Bringing to the table. He's going to score a try. He's going to be safe for your Supercoach setup. And Hammer, as you said, was it. I think that's all. Like, what else are we going to talk about?
Kenny Bromwich and SASA were probably their best two forwards who did their work, but nothing outstanding by any means. Yeah, you've covered everything that I had written down here. Mate. Cool. They were the only ones that I wanted to mention, and most of them are just a passing mention, realistically, apart from probably Hammer and Cody.
So Manly have come out and nearly put 60 on here. How I'm still not buying Manly as
their biggest challenge is the middle of the field.
Yeah.
If they get dragged into a tough fight through the middle of the field, unless they come up and show their best like they did 3 times this year, where their forwards have really been super strong, they're going to probably get beaten in the middle 7 out of 10 times.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So if you can contain their outside backs, get up in their face, not be retreating and, being on the front foot in your defence, getting to them before they get their head of steam up, you probably can control Manly and, cause them enough problems to beat them at the end of the day.
Games like that, they are so reliant.
It's the time they break you open 2 or 3 times with Tommy or Garrick or a nice kick from DCE or a Schuster, no look.
But it's almost like when they do it early, they realise, like, oh, here we go. This is how we play. And then the other games get stuck into. They do win some where Paseka has a big game or whoever, but ultimately, Olakau'atu's been quiet for a month now, if not
This
more.
is one of his better games.
Fainu was good again.
Yeah, so Fainu was
he's a find, and I wouldn't be surprised if he keeps.
Paseka was the best of their forwards, as you mentioned before.
Not Tuolangi. Who's a other ex-Tigers second row? I think.
Yeah, come with Tuolangi.
Oh, Tuolangi, yeah. Fainu will almost keep his spot now, but it's the quick shift and
well, their forwards basically got the night off, apart from Paseka and Olakau'atu, who were quite good. Croker was brilliant, and he was the best of their forwards, but throw Paseka and fucking Olakau'atu in there. DCE was very good. Some of the nice kicks.
Piss-taking DCE is my favourite because he doesn't get to do it much, and once a year they'll just be completely typical. I'll just fucking chip it over here and now kick it over there.
Or over here, 40-20.
Or I'll follow. Like they actually should have won probably by 70 because once he set up to support and him and Tommy ran into each other. There was another one. It's like, but fuck, he's a good half. Like he's a great halfback. DC, and when you got to see him in the games like this, I enjoyed it. The early kicks, just putting Cooler over.
Well, Saab and Cooler were made to look like superstars. Realistically, all they did was finish.
Exactly.
They just grabbed the ball and put it down. Like it wasn't.
Yeah.
Well, there was 1 or 2 runs where they beat a few blokes, but it was generally them just getting put into gaping holes by Garrick or Tommy, and they just ran and put the footy down. But Tommy was brilliant. He was. He's doing that bit of ball playing stuff. He's still a fraction off his top speed at the moment. You can see it. There was a break there where he got run down pretty comfortably, and he still managed to put. Actually, I think he gave it back to Garrick, and then Garrick gave it back to him, and he still managed to score the try. But
that was probably my try of the year so far. Of him, it was him, Garrick, DCE, wasn't it?
Yeah. Garrick ended up popping out, but on an offload for him to score again near the post or under the post, but. It was all coming up Ruben, mate. He just had an absolute fucking night out. 9 conversions, tackle bust, 3 tries, 3 try assists. He was in everything that went right for this team.
It's the team that suits Schuster too because you're playing in.
He was quiet too.
But he had some nice touches. But
he did have a couple of nice
suits
touches,
when you've got such a dominant. It's like you can always look good when you got arguably the world's best halfback.
Just get to the line and then give him the ball.
I don't want to call him Luai, but it's the same sort of setup. That you have to have a couple of touches. You look like you look like a genius. So
Luai looked like a genius this weekend, but we'll get to that.
But yeah, what else do we have to say? I think it was just
Garrick, Tommy, Kroger.
Yeah, and DC is very unlucky, but he'll be fine.
You're right. The millions he's sitting on.
He can jump into his Scrooge McDuck style money pit and feel better about himself. But yeah, I'm going to finish up. That's all right. You get a piss. I just want to say that, like I said, they're now going to bounce off this. They're playing. They're going to buy.
Manly, not sure.
Yeah, they're going to have a couple of quick backup. If Tommy does stay fit,
no, they are playing.
Yeah, and if they are playing because they're playing
Para,
and that's and they'll get done there. But well, actually, no, they won't because no team's got halves. Looking forward to analysing that. I was going to say I don't. When they play like this, you think they're top 8, but they're just Manly, and you don't quite know whether you can trust them yet. And that's
I think they're very close to the top 8.
We've said it a lot. Definitely Dolphins are gone.
So many people are taking so many points off each other. Like, you're probably going to get into the top 8 with a negative record again this year.
It's also bloated with the buys and everything. But I think Dolphins they've achieved what they had to achieve this year. As I said last week, I can now rub us down.
They'll bounce
win
back.
games.
They'll have 2 or 3 games. They'll put 2 games together or something here and there.
They're going to finish a respectable 11th and cool. But if you're saying Eagles on for top 8,
we're very close.
Do they then become scary if everyone's fit? They probably do, because in a full house, I'm not sold yet, but in a full house, everything going on, Tommy Turbo running right, maybe they can knock someone off in a final or a semi. Pre.
They've got enough points into them. If they're on, then they'll trouble most teams.
Interesting to see where they go the next couple.
How often they're on is the issue.
Well, when you get into the drag down knockouts, you need their forward.
At the moment, it's been less than 50-50, and
so if they play South, for example, in a prelim final,
and they're getting shut down on the edges.
Edges are shut down, and then they've got to bash through the middle. Souths are going to arm wrestle
you would think control them pretty easily. Yeah.
Anyway. Well, the upsets, I guess you call them, kept coming, with the Dragons getting over Souths, who were probably slightly disappointing, but Dragons are pretty good. 36-30 to kick off Saturday afternoon. Barn, what did the stats say?
6 tries apiece, 5 out of 6 conversions for the Dragons, 3 out of 6 for Souths. 1 out of 1 penalty attempts for the Dragons, 0 for South Sydney. 288 plus running metres and 169 plus post-contact metres for the Dragons. 6 line breaks to 9, 37 tackle busts to 36, 12 offloads to 10. 2 forced dropouts to 1, 263 tackles played, 363, 11 errors to 8. 3 penalties conceded to 7, 1 inside the 10 against Souths. Ben Hunt with 97 Supercoach points, Campbell Graham with 98, and Sewer with 87.
Just quickly for the guys watching on YouTube, apologies for the brief loss of vision there. Hopefully it's only brief. Filled up one of the SD cards and didn't Jerry. But so to Queenslander and Il Lee and all the guys that get on and give us a gobful. Yeah, sorry about that. We're back. Hi. There'll be audio. I'll put some audio and some pretty pictures in between. Anyway, yeah, what happened here, Barn?
Interesting game of footy. More consistent and better team won, I thought. Dragons were by far the better team for much longer parts of this game. But it was back and forth for a while. And time and time again, even when the Dragons took a pretty handy lead, I was just sitting back expecting Souths to break them open and score some points. There's still, even given the outs that they have, there's still a lot of attacking threats in this team. But it just didn't seem to happen. Right up until the last 5 minutes of the game, and then it was just absolute rugby league chaos. Yes. The Dragons' left-hand edge in defence just absolutely fell to pieces, and Campbell Graham had a field day out there for 5 minutes.
The game was, and also, like, South could have won this game. That last play, if they spread the ball again.
Well, they almost gave up the 20-point lead in 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, it was just absolute utter chaos. They scored 16 points in 4 minutes, I think it was, for the South Sydney team. It's just complete crazy utter shit. But the Dragons did compose a couple of well-constructed tries. Some of the work that they did earlier in the game was actually quite nice. There was some really... there was two probably really soft efforts from South Sydney, and they'll probably ruin that. And that was probably the reason they got defeated in this game, where there was just really one-on-one misses and that led directly to tries that should have been stopped. They should never have been tries. But there was also some really nice passing from Ben Hunt and kicking and putting Sewer away for a try. And I think one of the wingers that scored a really nice try as well. So the Dragons were by far a much better team in the middle of the field. Cook had his moments where he split them open. So did Kulamutangi and Campbell Graham. But they were pretty well contained for the majority of the match. But yeah, that last 5 minutes was insanity.
You're right. It was, they were clearly the better team, actually, Dragons, for an hour. Constructed around Ben Hunt. Michael Molo had we throw out breakout games here and there, but he looked like he, I guess, came of age here.
He's been getting better week in and week out.
I know, obviously, he needs to stand the field is a big key to getting better, and he did that here. All the forward back actually were quite good. Yeah. Ravalawa has since came back from injury as well.
He's been fantastic.
He's now in what we hoped he would be, 2-3 years ago. He's a damaging winger that can get through that bit of work if you get him the ball fresh ball, 20 to go. He can beat two blokes and get there.
Absolutely.
Lomax, I think, is much better for the swap and being. I guess a coach is probably happy to back him more than anything. And what about Sloan? How do you take his?
He was actually pretty good in this one. He had a couple of nice attacking inputs. He's still a big worry in his defensive positioning. He gets caught out more often than most of the NRL fullbacks.
Yeah,
which is a bit of a worry for him. On the other side of the field, Taff would have wished he'd kicked a couple of those goals that he missed, because there was one or two that he really shouldn't have missed, and managed to hang them out wide or cut one across the post, and was the difference at the end of the game, realistically. But Sloan again, when he does play well, his attack's always good, but he's got some issues in his defensive positioning. Taff, Totola and Saleh were decent in the middle of the field. The bench was okay. Cheekham, I thought, had a fantastic game for South when he did come on. He had a lot of impact, and Kulamutangi and himself were probably the two best forwards for South Sydney. Tass was good again. He was, again, I think I
chance he's got,
picked him out probably, what was it, when they signed Whiten? That it was a really big turning point in him, and he's gone better every game ever since, I think, from then. Graham and Cook were awesome. They were really the big attacking sparks for this South Sydney team, but they left it too late. They got dominated for probably 40 to 50 minutes, and then were only sort of breaking even for the next 10 or 15 as well, which really left them trying to do everything at the back end of the game. Sloan was probably the best of the back five for the Dragons, realistically. Since you mentioned him, Francis Molo and...
As I said, I reckon the more I've thought about my comparison to Dufty stands with Sloan, I reckon that's him all over.
Yeah, seems that way. Just a bit taller.
And probably not as fast.
And probably not as fast. Yeah. Francis Molo, Jaden Hunt were good. Little was really good for this team again. He's really starting to stamp his name as a quality hooker, and he's doing some really good things for this Dragon side. Sewer was very strong. Michael Molo and Ben Hunt were the Dragons' best two players on the field.
Yep. Just a quick word that they were missing, obviously, Cody Walker, but Ilias didn't really feel like he ever took control completely. And Dean Hawkins, he was involved in a couple, but he was just there. He
just seemed to sort of float around and throw a pass here and there. Ilias, for mine, I'd really like to see him start taking a bit more control. He's probably had 2 or 3 games where he has been a dominant half in this season and looked quite good doing that, but a lot of the times you don't notice him at all for the majority of the game.
He's either non-existent because they're spreading left, or all the Trells taking over, or Cody's taking over, or there are still times he feels like he zigs when he should have zagged, like he'll go left instead of right or whatever it might be. But we know his quality. And it was just him. I mean, when you're thrown in with all of a sudden complete control of the spine. It's
He's got the skill level, and it obviously comes back to how well his forwards are going as well, as how good he can go off the back of that. But he's not one that you really see light up the field like some of the other halves in the comp.
And Jaden Sullivan?
Had a couple of nice touches, did a few nice things. I still think he's probably a better option than Amone, to be honest. Amone's probably got a little bit stronger running game just because he's a bit more physical than Sullivan. But Sullivan's, to me, seems like got a bit of a higher skill level and a bit more switched on in the way that the game needs to be controlled.
I hate to say it, I've got a feeling Amone will end up with the Tigers next year. They beat the Bunnies. So where are the Bunnies at? So they have dropped a few games that we thought they'd win after I declared they'd win the comp. I know they're
That's you again.
missing. Is a Reaper just struck? Can you put the outs blame the outs on that? But I thought they were particularly poor for a lot of this game.
Yeah, their forward pack was nowhere near as good as it could have been. I call it an off night for their forward pack, to be honest. Went into a game expecting to be able to just do what they wanted in the middle of the field, and when they were challenged, they just couldn't find that extra gear to go with the Dragons, who were probably a good cog better in the middle of the field than what Souths were. You're missing Murray, you're missing Walker, you're missing Latrell, you're missing Tom Burgess. There's four.
It adds up, admittedly.
That's a big chunk out of, especially the attacking game. With ball in hand, they probably add an extra 10 to 20 points in this game easily, and save completely
12.
different story. So
Fair enough. Again, Ben Hunt 3.
Yep.
Molo 2.
I had Cook for 2. I thought Cook was extremely good for the South Sydney team. He made, again, up near 45 tackles, I think, without a miss. He created a couple of line breaks just off his own bat and got him down the other end of the field. And then I had Molo for the 1. Could give it to Graham, but the 5-minute punish is probably...
Only for my own pure entertainment. But now, stick with yours, GT, stick with Barney, and we'll get to the escape job, the one that did get out of jail here. The Broncos 24, the Knights 20.
Probably the best game of the weekend, to be honest.
It was the best game of the weekend, and an Ezra Mann magic trick, and they got home.
How good was that pass?
Death. It was brilliant. 24-20 Barn stats.
4 tries apiece, 4 out of 4 conversions for the Broncos, 2 out of 4 for the Knights. 80% completion, played 78%. 163 plus running metres for the Newcastle team. 10 line breaks to 6. 59 tackle busts for the Broncos, 42 for the Knights. 17 offloads to 8. 1 forced dropout for the Knights side. 346 tackles played, 338. 10 errors to 8. 6 penalties conceded to 3. 1 ruck infringement to 2. 1 inside the 10 against Newcastle. Reece Walsh with 116 Supercoach points, Dom Young with 111, and Payne Haas with 95.
Yeah, Newcastle probably produced their best effort of the year. They were fantastic. This game matched up and gave it back to the top team in the comp at the moment. Where do we start here? Apart from the fact that at some point Payne Haas' arms and legs are all going to fall off and he won't be human.
You've been saying that for 3 years.
But he keeps telling me. He's still only like 23 or something.
It's like a cyborg. But,
he is incredible.
The Knights shared the workaround.
Yeah.
You look at what they did. They had a whole heap of blokes over 100 metres. There wasn't really any. There was maybe 2 of them that got up near that 200-metre mark and above. Whereas it did really, Broncos came down to a couple of really key individual efforts to get them to where they were in Reece Walsh, Payne Haas. Carrigan had a fairly good game. Herbie Farnworth was up near 200 metres. I think there was another one of the back 5 that was up near 200 metres. And so those guys were the ones that were really doing a whole heap of work, whereas the Knights really shared it around, and you could see that they probably had that little bit of extra spark in their attack because they were that little bit fresher, because they were all sort of doing the work rather than 4 blokes. But it was those 4 blokes that got them over the line at the end of the day with the Broncos. They're just obsessed. Reece Walsh and Payne Haas, without those 2 blokes in this team, I think the Broncos would have only won half the game that they've won this year, because they have been fucking amazing week after week. A lot of missed tackles in the middle of the field. But there were some very nice attacking plays as well, which led to that. some of the passing from both of these sides to get the ball out wide and create 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 opportunities for the wingers and the centres really created some really nice looking footy, and which ended up being points at the end of the day. There's a couple of nice defensive efforts and saved a couple of tries as well. This could have been 34-30. You know what I mean? Another couple of tries on either side of the field, but it would have awesome way to win the game with Adam Reynolds backing up the young fella who got through there, Isra Mam, and that flick pass, drawing the fullback and the cover defender and flicking it out to have him score was fucking amazing. Both fullbacks had some really nice touches. It was obviously the battle of the ones.
It turns out Kalen Pong is a fullback. Because he was
who would have thunk it?
He was sensational. He was good. He's been good since he's come back.
He's back to his best, skipping on the outside of defenders, drawing blokes, nice little short passes. He's got that really good cutout as well, and you put it all together when he's on. It's very, very good to watch.
This was in terms, as you said, game of the weekend, but clash of the weekend was the current Queensland fullback against the former, and AJ looming in the background, I suppose, but. Fantastic. Space and time is Ponga's friend, and he got to use it here. And he benefits from having Gamble and Hastings, are just two blokes with mongrel that are going to
get
do
him
the
to where
scrap
he
and
needs to get
just do the scrap. Like they don't necessarily have an ego about him. They just want to do what's best for him and
try and put him in the best position possibly.
And it shone through here. Both their wingers were fantastic. They get through a mountain of work as well.
I think Walsh probably just got the points decision at the back end of the game.
Well,
probably provided a couple of extra opportunities while they weren't fully taken. Just seemed to create one or two more opportunities than Ponga did during the match, even though Ponga's ones were pretty much finished every time that he did create an opportunity. Walsh just seemed to pop up a little bit more and cause a few more problems. Some really nice touches from both of them, as I said. Ponga, Gay Guy was as good as Dominic Young. Like, I know he gets applauded for putting the ball down, but there was two of those tries don't happen if Gay Guy isn't the guy on his inside that holds a defender up, stutters, steps, and gets on the outside of him to put him away down the wing. And I thought he was tremendous in this game, Dane Gay Guy. I know he missed a few tackles, which is obviously the reason he's probably not playing for Queensland at the moment. But attacking, he was brilliant again, right up near his best. Dominic Young was fantastic, deserves a lot of credit as well.
So Feedy
was very good.
Yep.
Probably
close to his best game of the year, I'd suggest.
Yeah, unlucky. He would have been mentioned, I would imagine. Would have been in the conversation for that spot that Utukamano was taken, but he was already in the squad, so that's probably fair enough there. They traded blows for about an hour in the middle of the field. The Knights just seemed that little bit more effective in the middle of the field. They're just creating a few more issues and dragging in defenders, and then they got it out wide to cash in off the back of it. And as I said, shared the workload around, which made them a little bit fresher in the middle, but Payne Haas was just trucking football through the middle of the field, taking blokes with him. Another 200-odd plus metre performance.
2
guys on his back, blokes around his legs. He's still just motoring through the middle of the field. Carrigan, while not at his absolute best, was fantastic as well in the middle of the field.
I know it's only been 4 years, but I would say that used to say Webke and Seven to are the two best props I'd seen.
He's right up there.
This bloke is better. If he does it for another 2 years, well, he's probably the best prop I've ever seen. Incredible.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that completely. Imagine if he had a fucking a little pass before the line or an offload to go with it. Like, I know he gets an offload out every now and then, but imagine if he had a fucking perfect offload to go with what else he's got. He would, hands down, be the best I've ever seen. The issue for the Knights was they probably weren't as effective defensively in the middle of the field as what Brisbane were, which led to, the Broncos did break them open quite a few times through the middle of the field, which led to, getting in behind the defence, the retreating defence, quick play the balls, and that's where a lot of the Broncos' points came from, which, unfortunately, while they were quite good in the middle, their defence is still a little bit iffy in and around either side of the ruck there, which got exposed a couple of times by the Broncos. But, so I thought Leo Thompson again was quite good. Dylan Lucas, the young fella coming through, had a decent game. Frizzell and Daniel Saifidi were the best of their forwards. Hastings was good again. I think he's been pretty good this year. I don't remember.
He's been.
Don't remember a poor game out of him this year. Maybe a couple of quiet ones, but definitely not a poor one.
But he doesn't have. He's never. Even for the Tigers, he doesn't have bad games. They have quiet games. He doesn't have bad. He doesn't have 3 drop balls and a. If he's got to kick the ball in a touch, he kicks in a touch. It's like he does his job.
Young and Gay Guy were great, and Ponga was their best. Flegler and Oates were really good. Cobbo and Ricky, throw Carrigan in there, they were ultra good as well. But as I mentioned, it's Haas and Walsh. Week in, week out, it's Haas and Walsh that get these guys where they need to be.
I don't know, because he's coming to a good team, he might not get the plaudits, but Reece Walsh has to be by the year.
Yeah.
Because Brisbane aren't where they are without him. No. If they win the comp, he's by the year. It's $1.20 to win it.
He's creating 3 and 4 try-scoring opportunities every week. They might not all be cashed in on, but off his own bat, 3 or 4 every week.
Yeah. You can look at others around and make cases for improving teams, but he's almost the heart and soul. Well, he's the heart and soul apart from paying us of this Brisbane team. So you give him 3-2.
It's like Reece Walsh on Haas's back riding him into battle. Let's go, big fella.
Sexy. 3 to, which one are you going? 3 to Payne?
Haas, yeah.
Yep.
Payne has 3.
2 to Walsh, 1 to Ponga, or?
Young, Ponga, Gay Guy. Probably Ponga.
Give it to Ponga.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Then we got to the Panthers and the Chooks. 30-6, this team, missing Nathan Cleary, got to come out and got to play against this Roosters team that I'm not sure would beat anyone in the comp right now.
They dumbed down their attack and just absolutely bludgeoned the shit out of the Roosters.
Yes.
1 try to 5, 1 out of 1 conversions played, 4 out of 5 for Penrith. 0 penalties from the Roosters, 1 out of 1 attempt from the Panthers. 72% completion played, 71%. 470 plus running metres and 111 plus post-contact metres for Penrith. 3 line breaks to 7. 43 tackle busts for the Roosters to 36, which was interesting for mine. 11 offloads to 13. 1 forced dropout from both teams. 413 tackles played, 316. 13 errors apiece from both teams. It didn't seem that there was that many errors in mine, but anyway. 4 penalties conceded to 6. 1 ruck infringement each. 4 inside the 10 against the Roosters. 2 against Penrith, and a sin bin for both sides with water bottles at 10 paces.
Can you tell me what he was actually sin bin for?
Throwing a water bottle at someone. And Lino Spencer, I think, was the grab and the fist under the chin, but it was just to get him off the field and make sure that they didn't punch shit out of each other in the next 5 minutes.
There's nothing going on there.
Yeah, Sorensen with 100 Supercoach points, Crichton with 94, and then you had 5 other Penrith players before you got to Nat Butcher on 67.
I want to say this Roosters forward pack's gone, but the Roosters are gone. There's no guts to this Roosters team.
Kiri had a couple of nice touches.
Their 2 best players are Kiri and Tedesco, and that's it. And their forward pack, which a lot of Sprout, a lot of ex-internationals.
Lindsay Collins playing for Queensland next week.
They add nothing here. They got belted out apart from Jared, who decided
Collins was okay as well.
Last 15 minutes, Jared decided, fuck this, I'm going to give it back to him, and did arse over tit. Leota did arse over tit. Was it Fish or the other one?
But they were bashing him for a good 40 minutes before that happened.
He decided to have a last crack, and good on him, because why not? But they're getting towards clean-out territory, the Roosters, and it's amazing to say that given...
When you look at the team they had on paper at the start of the year, yeah, absolutely. Crichton's nowhere near the player he was. Obviously, there's other issues that are going on there, but he's come back nowhere near his best. Tupanua has 1 good game out of 5 or 6, so give or take that. The Butcher boys have been their most consistent players week in and week out.
But they're both sort of fit. But they still feel like they
don't break anything open.
They need people around them.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're your good.
Kiri sort of
Solid
faffed
tradesman.
around for most of the year. He has one or two decent touches in a game, but that's about it. They seem
Great support play, Kiri.
very directionless. They don't.
Yeah.
They just don't seem to know exactly. They don't seem to have anyone out there carrying out the game plan to get them exactly where they need to be. So
Simple as that. And as you said, they have dumbed it down and they've played direct, and Kiri and Tedesco are very good doing it, but there's just nothing around him.
yeah, it's dark times for the Roosters supporters, to be honest. Almost as dark as it was in my garage the game after this one when I watched that game. But Tedset thought I had a split personality watching that one, but we'll get to that in a minute. Pretty competitive first half. Roosters did hang on as long as they could in the first half of this game because they were getting walked all over for the majority of the first half, and Penrith just couldn't find that gear to put them away. You know what I mean? Like, they were camped down the Roosters' end. They were physically dominant. Like, Martin was flying out of the line, belting blokes. I think Mitch Kenny almost ended somebody's life at one point as well. It absolutely cut somebody in half. I didn't expect him to get up again when he got hit, but. Mate, there was some absolute physical dominance in this game, and from the Roosters of yesteryear wouldn't stand up for that. Three of them would have all got up at the same time and gone, come on, fucking let's give it back to them.
Yeah.
And then it would be an all-out war for 50, 60 minutes. Like, I remember games 5, 6 years ago where you try to staunch the Roosters forward pack, and then it was just on. Like, there was just blokes going flying left, right, and centre, and blokes getting belted. Boyd had come across and smack someone, and then Jared would be standing over
Jared,
people.
Boyd,
and
Pete Crichton.
but it's a completely different fullback these days, that's for sure. First 10 or 15 minutes was all Penrith, absolutely over the Roosters, dominating field position. Penrith scored their first try and so it seemed to sort of clock off a little bit. And the Roosters sort of managed to match Penrith for maybe the next 10 minutes or so, but then it was just all Penrith. Like, the 60-minute mark of this game, I think it was, that the Roosters finally decided to finally were able to crack the Penrith to score a try, which was nice, a little bit of interchange of passing through the middle of the field and a bit of lazy defence, but they never looked like threatening Penrith's defensive line for, how many sets do you reckon they had? 30? 32?
Yeah.
31 of them, they didn't look like threatening the Penrith defensive line whatsoever. Just really good, strong, hard running, some offloads, some lovely running and passing from the halves. Cogger had a really good game, I thought, just getting them to where they needed to be. Luai probably had close to his best game of the year, the way he was engaging defenders and skipping across the front of people. Had a couple of really nice balls. I think he only got credited for one try assist, but I reckon he had 2 or 3 in this game. I thought he was fantastic in this game and was a big part of why Penrith did what they did. By the time the Roosters did anything, it was all over. Collins and Tupanua were probably the best of their forwards, apart from that Butcher. You can throw Turpin in there. Turpin's actually been really good since Cheese hasn't been around. He's not killing it, but he's doing a really good job, making a heap of tackles and good service out of there without pulling defences apart.
Yeah.
Nat Butcher was probably their best player, really. And Kieran Teddy worked really hard, but very limited opportunities and couldn't break open the defence.
Scott Sorensen. What a year. What a year he's having. He has he's just had
Superman
another
status.
extension, but he since that round
He's
2 or
given a
3
few
game,
Penrith
he's
fans extensions.
Absolutely.
Jesus.
He's incredible. He's flying this year from where he's come from.
His offloads, the way he takes the ball into the line.
It's line hard when he needs to. He'll slow up when he needs to. He'll pop an offload. He'll play across and play in ball
doesn't
play.
Get beaten in defence. Doesn't spelt blokes, but doesn't get beaten.
Incredible year. And more power to him. Fantastic again this year. Tango was a nice enough return.
Absolutely.
He was fine. He's good.
He'll be there unless they move him on, which I don't see happening. He'll be their first centre picked for quite some time now. Crichton's moved on. I imagine he'll just cement that left centre position for the next 5-10 years. He's a really good player.
Yeah, they and there'll be Panthers fans here probably saying we're underrating them, but ultimately I think you've got to. If you told me that you thought they were comp favourites, I would agree with you. So
Lindsay Smith off the bench.
Yes.
Really good. He's been super strong since he's been given his opportunity in first grade. And this is one of his better games. Martin was super tough in the middle of the field. Fish and Leota, while they didn't have a lot of minutes, so that probably brought their stats down a bit, but they did have a big impact when they were out there. They made sure they knew that those two big fellas were out there doing their job. Ran over the top of a few of them and cleaned a couple of them up in defence. Edwards was good without being,
he wasn't
his
spectacular.
best.
He wasn't. He wasn't. I'm better than James Tedesco spectacular, but he does what he does. He didn't let too many down.
And Critter was really good. Crichton was fantastic out in the centres on the right hand side, and Isaiah just took up the slack.
Does what he does.
Wasn't just absorbs all the pressure in the middle of the field. He seems to do it all himself. He was fantastic.
It was a week for the obvious multis. Just for the punters out there, just look. And I was thinking earlier, but you look back through here: Tedesco, Crichton, Edwards, Tuo, Tango. You could have had your little combination, and it would have got up. And it was the same story all the way through. Fortunately, I wasn't smart enough doing that, but
I had it all, but I threw in fucking Taruva as well.
I mean, even in the Warriors game, if you'd thrown, which I usually do, you throw Egan in, you would have got a result. But anyway, dire straits for the Chookies. 3-2-1, man.
Sorensen. Critter, I don't know. I really want to put Luai in there instead of Critter, to be honest. So Sorensen, Luai, and then Yo or Critter for the one.
Yeah, okay. Sorensen, Luai, Yo. I'm fine with that.
Yep.
So the Souls Sunday afternoon game. We didn't see this come because I tipped the Sharks. Talk about dire situations. 54-10. We got the traditional Storm bounce back, but the Sharks were not good at all. They've had the bad 25, 30 minutes in them all year. Well, they threw it all on the table this week, Barn, stats, and I will leave the floor to you.
Well, we had nine tries for the Storm, 2 for the Sharks.
This is what it's like living my life, David. So
I know, mate. I know.
You may have it.
9 tries to 2, 8 out of 9 conversions played, 1 out of 2, 1 out of 1 penalty attempts for the Storm, and a missed penalty attempt for the Sharks. 78% completion played, 63%, 804 plus running metres, and 157 plus post-contact metres. 10 line breaks to 3, 57 tackle busts for the Storm, 21 for the Sharks. 19 offloads to 11, 1 forced dropout from both sides, 85% completion played, 79. Oh, sorry. What's 80? What are those percentages there for? Anyway, get rid of them. 235 tackles played, 356, 11 errors to 14, 8 penalties conceded to 7, 1 ruck infringement to 2, and a sin bin from both teams. 1 inside the 10 against Cronulla. Munster with 124 Supercoach points, Grant with 123, Hughes with 119, and then you had 2 other Storm players before you got to Mulatalo on 73. You then also had another 6 Storm players before you got to the next one from the Sharks.
The 84% was effective tackles, 79% Sharks. Completion rate was 78-63. You did say that. Sorry.
First 10 or 15 minutes was competitive. Bit alarming the way that the Storm cut through the Sharks early for their first try. But they did hit back with a cross kick to Mulatalo, who had popped it back down for Wilton, and was a decent try, and it looked like it was going to be a bit of a back and forth game. Sharks then sort of camped themselves down there for a couple of minutes down on the Melbourne line and got a penalty. The minute that ball hit the post and went away from going over, the complexity of the game just absolutely, completely changed. Short dropout a couple of minutes later that they let bounce and directly bounce back to the Storm, and then every bounce of the ball for the rest of the game went their way. Not that it would have mattered with the way that they decided that they were going to defend, the way they were going to decide to try and catch the ball. Dead Set had feet for hands for the majority of the game, could not catch a ball. Felt like every second set of the game they dropped it. Every second set they had, they just dropped it, gave it back, and every third tackle they missed.
Yeah.
Like they'd go hit up, miss tackle, line break, miss tackle, line break. It's just, I was just sitting in the garage, head in my hands every 2 or 3 minutes, just going, of course, fucking of course. What the fuck?
Did you watch the whole game or you turned off?
No, I watched the whole fucking thing.
Good, because
I watched every second of it, and just was the head in the hands the whole time. abusing myself, abusing the players, abusing the officials,
There's nothing like self-flagellation
abusing the
that makes
bounce
you
of the
feel
ball, having inner conversations with myself about how I've followed this team for so long, and oh mate, it was.
I call it Saturday night, David. So welcome aboard.
It was an absolute mess. Yeah.
I like the fact that Blake Brayley spent the week in Origin camp and then came back and decided that there should be no ruck defence. We don't need it today. It's only Harry Grant. Let's let him just do what he wants, run out. And
He's
have
always
all the space
been
in
a
the
bit
world.
of a candidate for bouncing off tackles, only being a little fella, but his
Harry Grant,
defence was
with all due
fucking
respect,
atrocious
Harry
in this
Grant
game.
absolutely schooled him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He did.
Holy shit! When's the last hooker that ran 200 metres? I just realised.
As I said, they missed every third or fourth tackle. Then you throw in the penalties and the brain snaps that goes with it. Like, it was as pitiful as my pickup lines back in the day. It was just horrendous. There was nothing going on there. It was like walking into your great grandma's house. There was just fucking pot plants everywhere, and they had artificial plants in them as well. They weren't even real plants, so they're not going to grow. They're not going to get better. They're just going to sit there and do absolutely fucking nothing for the entirety of their existence. Yes, mate, it was just field of potatoes, just ready for the picking. And Harry Grant and Cam Munster just ran around and picked potatoes for 80 minutes. They just did absolutely nothing. They've got a forward back that all play 20 or 30 minutes each, and none of them really make massive impact. You look at Hunt, who was probably the aggressor and the one that did have the most physical sort of contact in this game, and now he's injured out for 6 weeks. Really missing Rudolph. Dale Finucane charges into the line but really doesn't make a huge amount of impact. Uele's been down on his physicality since coming back from injury, and it just really sets you up for a constant rotation in the middle of the field that don't really add any sort of massive spark. Wilton and Nakora did a job. They were probably the only two really worth mentioning. Maybe I'll chuck in Mulatalo. He did a good job when he was given opportunity, but
yeah. Well, Wilton's re-signed as well. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Very good. Yeah, no, he's been good this year. He's had 1 or 2 average games, but he's been good for the majority. But those 3 were really the only 3 that were worth mentioning. The Storm were made to look amazing, even though they were very good, but they look like absolute superstars in this game, just through the lack of defence from the Sharks. So they've been missing 30, 40 tackles, and then they come up a good team, and then they miss 60, and this is what you get off the back of it. King and Welsh were very strong in the middle of the field. Naz absolutely terrorised the Sharks. He was just picking out the small spokes on the field and just bouncing them all over the place, especially Moylan. He's made every time he plays Moylan, he just picks him out and runs at him time and time again. Moylan would absolutely hate facing up against that bloke. Remus Smith and Meaney were the best of the back 5. I thought Meaney was fantastic, actually, and did a lot of that. The 9, 6 and 7 just were clinical. They just went about it, picked the holes in defence, were drawing defenders, and as soon as the defence started to move in a way that they wanted it to move, they had shape on the outside and just absolutely cut the Sharks to pieces. Munster just basically did whatever the fuck he wanted in this game. He ran the ball more than I think I've ever seen him run the ball. Like, he was out on a mission to run at people and beat them with footwork.
Well, he ran, as you said, 214, and Harry's ran 200 metres, so...
Yeah. So it was Munster Grant, and then it was either Hughes or Nelson for the one for mine. But
give it to Nelson. And Meaney's unlucky to miss out there. Okay, so with the Sharks, you get to have your little soul-searching discussion here.
Yep.
As we said, haven't beaten a top 8 team in 2 years. They've come here. Moylan's missed another, I think, 10,
they're gone, mate.
10 tackles.
They'll end up at the bottom of the 8, and they'll end up probably going out in straight sets like they did last year.
Do they make
They
the 8?
can't, possibly not. They can't be putting up performances like that. The fact that they've started decently during the year and they're still in 5th even after a showing like that is probably enough to make them probably scrape into the bottom of the 8.
It's very, as our PCTC tipping efforts can attest to, it's very hard to make ground sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's taking points off each other, so I think they probably do just hold a spot in the 8. But for mine, unless they look like the best team in the comp for 6 weeks in a row, it's just they're done.
So We know Old Man Hit Up is still on the bench there. We know Moyland, 13 missed tackles basically.
Yep.
Finucane, yes, he's a warhorse, but he's not busting open people.
He's not breaking the line like he used to. He's not offloading like he used to. Yep.
And they're missing, and both their props are now out. So, yeah, what next, and what do they go and look for in terms of next season or straight away? Or?
Well, I said it before the season even started that they needed probably 2 big middles, and it's a big part of what they've needed for for 2 or 3 years. Realistically, is a couple of really big bodies in the middle of the field that can bend that line, which they haven't had for a couple of years now, and. Well, they've got the outside backs that can score points if they're given enough time and opportunity to do so, but they're just not getting through the middle of the field anywhere near where they need to. And their defence, some games they can only miss 10, 15 tackles, but majority of the times they're missing 40 tackles. So I think McGuinness probably needs to play a few more minutes in this pack. It probably needs to be the bloke that plays 50 minutes and they play their rotation.
To the front and McGuinness and then just plays 80.
That's right. At least 50, and then they play their 20-minute rotations around someone like him. But Hazelton probably needs to get more game time as a bigger body who's pretty good with the ball in his hand.
Well, it's time with him to either put up or shut up. Back him and just say, right, you're our starting prop. Get out there and be Nelson.
You need Rudolph and Hunt to come back in this season, but they really need at least 1 big front rower, possibly 2 going into the next year. But.
Yeah, it's is there a concern having Nico? He's probably his worst 2 games in Sharks colours the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Is the Origin head fuck an issue?
Possibly.
Given
depends how long it hangs
Mama
around.
Home, he's got to look after her and everything else.
In fact, the next 3 or 4 weeks
shining
is
jewel. It's a big month for them.
They've got 3 or 4 weeks where they're playing. They play the Dogs this week, and then I think they have one of the better teams, but they're missing their Origin players in and around the next Origin time.
Yeah.
So there is a really good chance for them to stamp themselves, and if they can pick up 6 or 8 points in the next 5 or 6 weeks, then they do entrench themselves in that top 8.
Yeah.
But as you said, the next 4 or 5 weeks is massive for the Sharks.
And I guess Melbourne back on track, ish as much. Yeah. They're never going to be far
they're
away.
The same. They're have you saw what they did last week against the Cowboys. This year makes very little fucking sense.
No. We wrap it up 34-12 on the King's birthday Monday. The Eels were very impressive. They played well. They were good
the
against
King of Parramatta
the Dogs.
with a hat trick.
The King had his birthday for a 24-minute hat trick. What did the stats say, Barn?
We had 2 tries for the Dogs, 6 for Parramatta. 2 out of 2 conversions, played 5 out of 6. A missed field goal attempt for Parramatta. 80% completion, played 65% for Parramatta, which is a weird one. 490 plus running metres and 134 plus post contact metres for Parramatta. 7 line breaks to 6. 36 tackle busts, played 56. 19 offloads to 18. A forced dropout for Parramatta. 348 tackles, played 265. 12 errors to 15, 2 penalties conceded to 8, 2 ruck infringements to 1. Gutherson with 138 Supercoach points, Burton with 91, and Jacob Preston with 90. Some of those stats from Parramatta has been the reason they've been losing games this year, but they managed to win this one pretty convincingly. High error rate, poor completion rate, but they still were able to really dominate the middle of the field up against this Bulldogs team.
It wasn't a particularly high-class game of football.
There was some very classy touches.
There was very classy touches, but the point is that
the consistency,
the best, blokes that Gutho and Moses thrive on shitty footy and broken field play and running a bit round, having that chaos going on. As I said, the most manic team to come. And it was set up perfectly for them. Bulldogs were woeful for the first 20 minutes.
As soon as the hat trick came through, it just felt like it was game over. It was like, oh well, this is over. It just depends how much Parramatta win this one by now. Dogs did stick in there and they did fight hard for a big part of this game, but Parramatta went out of their way to really target the middle of the defence for the Dogs early. The likes of TPJ and a couple of the other the middle forwards where they played inside, outside, and different angles back inside of those guys. The worst one of all was the one where Moses sort of ran at Tavita, then started running backwards, and Tavita just kept chasing and chasing and chasing. And short inside ball, Gutherson under the post. It was just...
That was pure... And it's one of those ones that had to have been discussed and would have just come off.
Well, they did ask him after the game. I did listen to the after-game interview, and he basically said, I do a lot of video. I do watch a lot of my opponents, and that probably had something to do with what we did down here today. And I was like, yeah, so you watched him when he's going to chase me, and I'll just get him to chase me. But they unlocked the middle really early. They were playing inside-outside footy, change of angles back in through the middle of the ruck, and just rolled over the middle of the field. You add in the return of Regal Cam McGillard, who was quite good, especially early in this match. Paulo, they were never really going to be contained in the middle of the field, and that's where they stuck to for probably the first half an hour. The King got his hat trick, and then they started hitting the edges, and they ripped those apart as well. Moses' speed and footwork was noticeable in this game. Yeah. Like nobody looked like he did the way he was running the football. He just opened up so many different opportunities, and his passing game was quite good off the back of it. They didn't really have to rely on his kicking game either in this one, which was a bit of a different thing.
He played like a bloke he played like a bloke. I don't know if he got a phone call before the game or anything like that.
I'm assuming he did. The interview before and after the game seemed like he'd been told. He played like and Nico looked like a bloke who'd been told that he wasn't going to be in the team.
Someone like Moses, he's a confidence player, and his chest was puffed out from the start, and he was going to put on a show today, and he did.
Yeah, he absolutely did. He absolutely carved this defensive line apart for Canterbury. But Oluwapu. Sorry. That fucking try that he set up for Burton was fantastic. There's 4 or 5, 6 different blokes that had hands on him at different times in that one run that he had. He only ran about 15 to 20 metres, but he beat 5 blokes and then had a beautiful little inside ball for Burton to score in underneath the post. Yeah, he's definitely a running 6. Maybe he gets a bit bigger, it'd be a nice running opportunity for him to play 13. Probably
I
quite a good
feel
13.
like that's where he's going, but depends where the game goes in terms of how they're...
Just because he's probably not doesn't have that acceleration that some of the 6s have in the game, and it probably sets him up better to be a 13 down the track. Yeah. But at the moment,
I had the same impression.
He's got very good skill level. Big, strong boy. He's definitely got a future.
The concern is for the Dogs is they've got who they got coming next year, Crichton and some other spruik who I can't think of. You know, Crichton coming in next year. The issue is their middles. I know they're missing kick out. Thompson, I don't think he's going to be there next year.
I don't think he is, no.
But that was where they dominated predominantly, and that's
they
where
played Max King off the bench, which was interesting for mine. I thought they really needed to play him.
He's probably still carrying a niggle or something. But maybe. The only bloke I'm going to wrap from the Dogs is Jacob Preston, from where he's come from.
He's brilliant.
He was incredible in this game. The work he did, some of these sole breaks he made late in that second half to just drag the Bulldogs out of trouble.
He does not know how to stop. I reckon they could be behind 70 by 70 and he'd still be doing
it. It's a long list to get in the back row to play Origin for New South Wales. I assume he's New South Wales. But if he keeps on this trajectory, he is a worker. He is an absolute worker, and he is sensational. And unfortunately, Jerome Bull has appeared. Otherwise, he'd be an absolute Monty for Rookie of the Year. And I assume when we get to that stage in 3 months' time, we will have that debate then. But he is fantastic.
I thought Kiraz and Perham had some nice touches.
Tried very hard, actually.
They did try. They put in an effort. Perham had a nice little try there where he busted through the middle of the field. The 2 halves were pretty good in a beaten side, I thought.
They did what they could in that side.
The best that he could, as well as Oluwapu. Pangai Jr. worked hard, but he just got, as I said, he got shown up probably 3 or 4 times in defence, and they targeted him especially. Preston was the Dogs' best by an absolute fucking mile. Penasini and Simonson did a good job for Parramatta out wide. Hopgood was very good again and just gets through another one of those workers who just does his work, turns up tackle after tackle. Cartwright was probably even a fraction better than those 3 that I've mentioned. He was close to one of the better players on the field. And Moses and Gutho were just brilliant. They were the difference in this
Yes.
game. They just tore this defensive line to pieces. And I gave Gutherson the 3 just for the fact that he was always in position. He created one as well off his own bat. I gave Moses the 2, and then I had Preston with the 1.
I did too. There you go. I just want to mention Khalid Rashid.
It's got a bit about him. There's a little bit of spark there, isn't there?
He was thrown in to play Khalid Rajab, but the Lebanon half / whatever. But he was thrown to play basically lock for a lot of this game, and I thought he was strong enough. He didn't let on down defence.
No.
He looked absolutely at home. He'd be someone if the Tigers are super ultra desperate for I shouldn't say it that way. If the Tigers need to find someone to play a half, and he'd turn around and sign him.
He's
on
got some nice acceleration, a little bit of
I
footwork.
think he'd be better in a ball playing
In a half.
role, and I
Maybe even if they swap him and Carl. Maybe give Carl a shot at 13.
Yeah, so I give him a thumbs up. I think he's got something about him, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a spark there.
Yeah, there it is. That's our run. You want to? Oh, okay. Alrighty, Barn. Have you got a pot plant for those following along at home? It's the player that could have been outperformed by a typical household pot plant.
Yes, I've got 13 of the motherfuckers out of the 17 blokes that showed
It
up.
was around for the pot plant.
In the black, white, and blue. There was black, white, and blue fucking pot plants
And they were
/
belted
potatoes.
blue and black as well. I'll open next
Everywhere.
podcast.
There was 13 of those motherfuckers that basically could have not been out there, and the result wouldn't have been much different. 13 Cronulla Sharks pot plants.
Tommy Talau. He set the pace early and he was woeful. And anyway, he can. Good luck to him at Manly next year, where he will struggle to get into that first grade team the way they're going. But anyway, got a salute and a slap for us, young.
You want
David.
to slap Tessie New? I thought he basically gave up in that Dolphins game. There was a couple of opportunities out there
He really
wide
should
where
have
he
scored,
basically
actually,
just.
he had
There was
opportunities.
a grubber that went in front of him, and he just stood there and watched it while when the opposition came through, dived on it, scored a try. He still had a couple of cracks here and there, but he really lost his way in the back end of that game and just could not give a fuck for the last probably half an hour. So
I want to slap the Panthers fans that somehow got wind that Spencer Leniu was going to play Origin, and then blew up on social media today that he was dropped from Origin. From the fact it never happened in
he was
the first
never
place.
selected.
That was fun.
Yeah, good.
So kudos to them. Bonus slap for Brendan Wakeham. Salute. I'm going to salute Kalen Ponga.
Nice.
Come back from he's had some trials and tribulations, obviously, over the years, but produce a game like that. I hope for the game and everything else that they keep going, and more so for the fact it's a team I've stuck the boot into at every opportunity the last couple of years. So
Yep.
I hope they get something right. So salute to him. Bonus salute for Andrew Webster, and that's what I'm going to say.
How's this for a performance? 3 tries, 3 try assists, 137 running metres, 5 tackle busts, a line break, 2 line break assists, 0 errors, and 9 out of 10 conversions.
Yeah, that's right.
It's all coming up, Ruben. Ruben Garrick is my salute this week.
Deservedly so. So that has been Footy and Frothies. Buy some sexy beanies for this sexy man over here. Hats, shirts, beanies, steins, all sorts of good stuff at rugbyleaguemerch.com. Give us some feedback on YouTube, Spotify. Leave us a Google review or a Apple iTunes review as well.
Spotify
Button that up
review,
as well. It all
yeah.
helps us out and helps our algorithms up. And we'll be back very soon, in fact, in about 10 minutes' time, to preview round number 16. Take care, guys. Talk soon.